Darren here. Welcome back to my lifetime of listening. Now up to week 9. That's 1980. And a tricky year to dissect. The 80s may have been a shiny, hopeful new decade, but looking back, a dark year really. The Cold War, CND protests, embassy sieges, hunger strikes, the first inner city race riots of the decade, rising inflation, mass unemployment. Heck, even Star Wars got dark with the release of Part 5, The Empire Strikes Back, the most downbeat episode of the original trilogy. The glittery 80s pop explosion, well, the new romantics, the new pop sound, they just weren't in full bloom yet. We had the end of times dance party of the Specials, the kitchen sink soul of Dexys, and the panto punk of Adam and the Ants. Unless we forget the first #1 single of the decade was Pink Floyd's sour and downtrodden protest number, Another Brick in the Wall, Part 2. In all, a tough year to sum up, and choosing an album has been tricky. Starting with my fantasy pick, that would be the Young Marble Giants' incredible Colossal Youth album, a record that sounds just as daring and minimal and unique today as it must have done to listeners nearly 45 years ago. Also, Talking Heads Remain in Light, possibly my favourite album of all time, certainly my most listened to, but not something on my radar at only 8 years old. Indelible memories of Bowie's Ashes to Ashes going to #1 meant I did consider Scary Monsters. For years, Bowie's last great album, but I had to pass on that one too. I was this close to choosing Ultravox's Vienna album, but that would have been a cheat. The title track, that glowering synth-pop masterpiece, it wasn't released as a single until 1981, and much as I love and still rate this album, I didn't own it until a few years down the line. So inevitably, a compromise this time out, but a good one, I think. A choice based on a couple of truly memorable singles off this album, and a sound palette, a worldview, an ethos maybe, that would shape a lot of the big music of the 1980s. This is Peter Gabriel and Peter Gabriel, aka Peter Gabriel 3, or based on Pete's facial treatment here, Melt. That memorable single was Games Without Frontiers, a #4 hit in March of this year, and based on my childhood feelings and recollections, about as representative a track for this knife-edge year as you could ever hope for. Gabriel likens the fractious state of global politics, the increasing likelihood of nuclear conflict, to nothing more than child's play. If looks could kill, they probably will, concludes Peter. Whilst Kate Bush's pretty but incomprehensible backing vocals, no, I didn't know they were French at the time either. Yeah, those treated robotic guitars and factory-lined synth figures all shuffle along, occasionally interrupted by chillingly cheery whistling sections, bringing to mind, any number of blindly chipper, stiff upper lip wartime sing-alongs. A fantastic track and a signal, I think, that the past, that human nature itself, holds the seeds of our destruction, even as new technology promised to insulate us, entertain us, protect us even. But the album, sonically a fresh page for Gabriel, it seems. Between the emerging post-punk sounds, producer Steve Lillywhite had worked on the Banshees, the Scream album, and the African world music that Gabriel was increasingly infatuated with, the decision was made to go cymbal-free on Melt. Phil Collins, in on drums here, took to this like a duck to water, pioneering a tribal, goth-leaning, tom-heavy sound that inadvertently gave birth to a production benchmark for the 1980s, the gated drum sound. Phil's cavernous reverbed kit, each beat cut off and silenced with mathematical precision, is in full evidence on opener Intruder, a clammy, crawling tale of home invasion. This drum sound became ubiquitous as the decade wore on, but crucially here, it's thoughtfully applied. It fits the mood of the song. It adds more than just the fashionable sound it ended up being on scores of lesser records. No self-control, more Kate Bush on backing vocals, Gabriel with an amazing lead performance, and Collins, again, my God, he's good on this album, easing up on the compression and breaking the dynamic restraints with a set of brutal tom-heavy detonations. It's a blistering track. I don't remember was that other single that I do remember here. Only a minor hit, but featuring some fantastic additional guitar from XTC's Dave Gregory. Yeah, it's all kind of phasing and choked band pass distortion. More signs of a clear post-punk influence to these ears. That side 2 tracks towards its close, the swirling, pounding sing-along, Not One of Us, into the kind of sinister, numbed, faux tranquility of Leader Normal life, and closes with Biko. Yeah, this kind of big statement, issue-based songwriting has seemingly become a lot less popular of a thing to engage in nowadays, but for the day, foregrounding the crimes of the racist apartheid regime in South Africa in song was a very big deal. And I'd argue that as well as becoming a pop cultural lightning rod for the anti-apartheid movement, Biko set the ball rolling on a huge swathe of the pop activism of the 80s. It feels like a lot to heap on a single LP, but I think that Peter Gabriel 3 deserves a lot of credit for its sonic and its political daring. Yes, as the decade wore on, Gabriel would go bigger, but never better, I think, than this album. So that's my choice for 1980. Yeah, a slight compromise maybe, I'm not sure. I certainly really love this album, and I do have a lot of time for Peter Gabriel. What do you think about this album? Is it his best? I still think so. If you've watched this far, thanks very much. Please consider giving it a like or subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more of these. But I will leave it there until next time. You take care, and I will see you again soon. Bye for now.